The combative can't pay, won't pay trajectory by the Kenya Kwanza luminaries is a trap that they've set for themselves. And why am I saying this? As the administration, it is only them that understand the nitty-gritties of a CBA with the doctors. And by saying can't pay, won't pay, you are talking about the salaries. But the doctors are saying won't treat, can't treat. Then you get to understand the principal focus of the administration should be making sure that there is service delivery. Well, the president and the team can go in rallies and say can't pay, won't pay. But they are not saying who is going to treat Kenyans dying in the hospitals. They have a one-sided narrative. I can't pay, won't pay. So I am saying this with a lot of conviction because I looked at what transpired in this country on Tuesday. And as you can see, when the doctors came out in their numbers, these are doctors in the streets of Nairobi that were protesting, showing their aggression and saying, unless we implement the 2017 CBA. Different people have spoken, Mutahi Kagwe have said, it is impractical, it was signed in rush. But I am seeing a situation where the duty bearers seem not to be so much interested in speaking about the public who cannot access services. The mothers that are supposed to deliver, they cannot get the hospitals. We have very many accidents and people need urgent medical attention. They cannot find the doctors in the hospitals. And so that is why I want to show you in this podcast why the yesterday's event really sent panic and some shockwaves in government. And probably the new move of sending police to tear gas doctors, if they will join the protest again, is something that is ill-advised. But before that, I want to humbly request you to kindly support our April project here. We are going to be in Kano on 13th, that is on Saturday, to support elderly women, these almost 50 elderly women with food stuff and other assortments that are needed. If you look at these videos, I think we are only now remaining the 2 days, that is today, tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. And I'm reaching out to you that kindly, let's help and see this coming to a success. These are elderly women, very poor, very low support system. They may not be able to really get something. Even if there is some relief food in that region, do you think these shoshos will even be able to line up and get what wakisukumana? So we said in the bold here, we are part of this society and we must do something for this community. And so this month, our April project is these women, these elderly women. They can share anything you can get, and I believe that it will go towards achieving the target. Now, yesterday, when the doctors thronged the two gates of Parliament, strategically, they went at a time when the session was starting. That was around 2 p.m. And Babu Owino really marshaled MPs both from Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. And to the surprise of President Ruto, who was attending some PCA service in Nairobi, more than 20 MPs from the UDA wing joined their counterparts from Azimio to stand in solidarity with the government. And I wanted to get what Babu said there.
The first thing that we will do is not to leave these precincts of Parliament. Mheshimiwa Osoro, these doctors must never leave here. Under the doctrine of necessity, the doctors must stay here because they need money. We will not wait for 2 weeks. Because in 2 weeks' time, how many patients shall have died? We want Ruto himself to meet these doctors. Ruto has been wasting time walking around the world, but he has a lot of crises in this nation. The first one being the doctors' issue that he must address today. And doctors, this demonstration must never stop because Ruto said that there is no money. Auze hiyo saa yake ambayo ni 10 million walipe doctors. Dr. Ria, Dr. Sra, Dr. Steve, Dr. Stialala, there is a motion before Parliament that is going to impeach Nakumicha. Nakumicha must, Nakumicha must, Nakumicha must. You cannot do diploma online and then you come and frustrate the doctors who cleared 6 years in the university. Doctors power. The doctors must not be paid yesterday. They must not be paid tomorrow, but they must be paid today. Ruto took loans and Ruto is collecting taxes, and those taxes must be used to pay these doctors. Ruto is vicariously liable for all the deaths occurring in the hospitals, for all the deaths occurring in this country, because he has refused. He has refused to pay the doctors. Ruto touched our toes and we kept quiet. He moved to our knees and we kept quiet. He jumped here and moved to our heads and we kept quiet. He moved to our chest and we kept quiet. Now he has touched our private parts. Dr. Ria, Dr. Sra, Dr. Steve, Dr. Stialala. Therefore, you must decide what to do with him. Hii serikali haitaendeshwa jinsi ambavyo mtu ambaye anaosha choo anaendesha hiyo choo. The government must never be run like a kiosk. These doctors must be respected because it is their duty, inherent duty, to receive their salaries. The 3 reducible minimums. Number 1, doctors must be paid as per the 2016-2017 CBA. Number two, the interns must be paid. And it must be 100% pay. Number 3, the doctors who have just graduated last year and before, they must be deployed. Today, doctors, there will be no business in Parliament. Therefore, Mheshimiwa Osoro, inafaa utoke hapa before doctors wakukimbize hapa.
In behind Babu, you can see Kamket. You can also see Osoro. There are a couple of other MPs from Kisii, but the majority of them from Kisii. And you also understand also Sabina Chege. The team that were having their committee also left and went to join, even though they could not now speak because they don't want to be seen. But the parliament reporters are saying that quite more than 20 UDA MPs also joined the doctors there. And the fact that Babu was speaking in solidarity when they were there means that probably they're part, they support their grievances. Remember, there is something called one government approach. And one thing that every government would want is that Kenya Kwanza leaders should buy into the position of government. Position of government is, we don't have the money to pay doctors or those interns more than 70,000. We can only offer 70,000. And they've said in the region they are paying better than any other country. That is their position. And they've also said that the economy has not grown to the level that can sustain implementation of that CBA. That be it. And if you want to know the really Kenya Kwanza team were rattled, immediately the doctors left parliament buildings and they went straight. Remember, they went to MOH, Ministry of Health, then they went to Parliament. Kimani Ichung'wah lectured parliamentarians in Parliament. Those who are standing in solidarity with the doctors, while back at the policy formulation stages of collecting money, of getting revenue, they are really bystanders. And this was his speech in Parliament.
We all value our doctors because many of us depend on them. But Honorable Speaker, it should not be lost to us that a decade ago, this country was only able to produce an average of 300 doctors from our 2 public universities that were churning out medical graduates. But today, courtesy of the huge investments that we have all made as a country in our education system, we are churning out an average of 1,500 intern doctors annually. What that means, Honorable Speaker, is that the interns would have been taken in 5 years are expected now to be taken in annually. And Honorable Speaker, I'm saying that just to draw the picture to Kenyans of the kind of resources that are required. And Honorable Speaker, also to put into perspective, the demands by our good doctors today are to be interned at an average of, I think, 206,000, 206 or 207,000 shillings. Honorable Speaker, I have listened to this debate even in the public domain, in the media. And what our doctors are being told, yes, it is possible to pay 206,000 shillings to intern doctors, but take up less interns than those who are graduating. Honorable Speaker, this year alone, a total of 1,210 doctors, intern doctors, are being enlisted at a cost of 2.4 billion shillings within the resource envelope already allocated by this House, Honorable Speaker. So it's foolhardy for us to speak to the gallery to excite doctors at the gates of Parliament. But it's another thing when we come to budgeting, to budget and make sure that you have adequate resources. But those resources do not come from the moon. They come from taxes raised from Kenyans, which, again, the same people who are pontificating about how well we should treat our doctors are the same people who are at the forefront of opposing the finance bill that was supposed to raise taxes to pay these doctors, Honorable Speaker. But, Honorable Speaker, the interns, Honorable Speaker, that are to be employed, yes, it is true, it may not be possible to pay 206,000 shillings. And I agree with the Honorable Chair Pukose that just like all other interns in other professions, those engineers who are supposed to work under engineers for 2 years.
So that tells you that they are really not, they did not feel comfortable that UDA MPs joined the doctors. Acting in panic. At the same time, Azimio leaders were in Jaramogi Oginga Odinga offices threatening to join that start. As they were threatening, Babu Owino had already joined the doctors. Then, from somewhere, Kithure Kindiki, who is the Interior CS, released a media statement and said that police will be deployed to offer security, or rather to ensure that Kenyans' activities are not disrupted by the doctors and other people that would actually think of joining that doctor strike. And you know, this is not the first industrial strike we are going to have, or that this is not the first one. And every government, I think, the first instant, they're not learning their lesson. Because look at it this way. The first day that the Secretary General of the KMPDU went to MOH, he was tear-gassed. And was hit by a tear gas canister and then became even hospitalized. Then from that I think I told someone that the first instant, that was a move to scare them, to show them that, you know what, if you dare, we'll crush you. But that threat didn't work. To date, we are into the 4th week of that strike. Even if you wanted to speak, this Secretary General who was hit by that tear gas canister, he also have that personal anger with the government. And I just want to find out kidogo. So imagine you send the police and they beat them. Will they go to work? They seem to be clinging on, and I look at the hypocrisy in all this, or rather the irony in all this, and I'm like, this is legendary. High Court issued orders for the doctors to resume work, and as they resume work, their representatives to engage government in negotiations that should be presented to court after 14 days. This was in respect to the CBA, but that was a court order that was given. Remember, the government is telling the doctors to return to work because there was a court order, but themselves they're in contravention of a 2017 CBA, which was registered in court. So even the government themselves are in breach of a court order. So is there one court order that is superior than the other? So if it is about contempt, there is contempt on the side of government and there is contempt on the side of the doctors. So I don't know that in law 1 + 1 becomes 2 or 1 + 1 becomes 11. But that is where they are. No one can break the deadlock because you cannot sell to me the issue of contempt. Well, even yourself, you're also on contempt. Now, I am a bit really looking at this. Unleashing the police is the wrong move. Very wrong move, if you ask me. We need to put our acts together. And you know this is, there is something that maybe the intelligence needs to maybe find out and maybe tell these duty bearers. The doctors' strike is a show of aggression. There are many other Kenyans that are also angry with Kenya Kwanza. So slightest opportunity they can get, they can even join that protest. And that is why I'm saying, when you unleash the police, there will be attempts to breach the human rights, to abuse, breach of some human rights code the doctors. They are fond of using excessive force. They're fond of, making arbitrary arrest here and there, all that. And when you open that discussion, this is a very delicate one, because you go and today you go and hit a doctor, probably even shoot and one dies. Do you know the discussion changes from that CBA and that doctor strike, and the discussion changes from protecting the right of that one doctor, and you'll protract. In fact, no one will even go to that negotiation table. And I've always agreed by what some people have said. These doctors can sustain this strike as long as they want. At the end of the day, the salary, they cannot compare that salary they want from government. They cannot compare with that much they are scooping from the private practice. They're the same fellows that have opened out some pharmacies and some mini clinics close to the big hospitals. So they're not losing. They're not like teachers who, when they are on strike, they are at home, they depend on government money. They're really not a dependent population. So when you send police, they might actually spoil the whole thing. Even the police themselves are also annoyed, are also angry. So it's one factor I think they must look at. Number two, the strike, when you unleash the police, the opposition would likely join. And remember, the opposition is not really politicians. The opposition has a package of, the opposition has political mass. When Babu Owino says, or Kalonzo Musyoka says, or Eugene Wamalwa says, or Raila Odinga says, let's go and join the doctors. When Bob Owino says, I'm going to join the doctors, he will not join Bob Owino alone. He will join with the other members of the public. Before you know, you will have a huge number, members of the public mixed with these doctors. Because at the end of the day, wale wenye hawapati services in the hospitals are the public. So you are already going to create a ground for political narrative, and the whole thing, if it takes a political angle, it will erode this discussion move. And that also creates a mood of revolution struggle. We are struggling for revolution. So that direction to me doesn't get, it's not the right one. Lastly, I've always been seeing mainstream, and I just want to point out, Citizen have been giving Dr. Strike article at item number 2. And they're given very long. Coverage is given long. That story can even be done for almost 6 minutes. And that is CBA and a meeting between doctors and government that failed. Now, if you create protests and you bring the police, you will actually get media attention. And you make that doctors' strike be a big agenda. It becomes public discourse. And remember, the public is not on the side of the government. The public feels the doctors just need to be paid so that they go to work. The public don't buy, we don't have the money. Economy is not stable enough to pay you what you want. The public don't seem to be buying it. So I'm telling you, if you send the police, then the whole morning, kwanzia saa 3 hadi saa 7, every camera will be directed at how the police are conducting, and then that brings a new agenda. That creates rebellion. So my advice here is, we must be careful. We don't lose the discussion on medical services. In fact, I've said, instead of saying we can't pay, won't pay, and we can only manage 70, can you even postpone? Can you even say, let's give you this, but we will make it by this time. You make your projection, say, let's postpone the implementation. Let's absorb interns and take 70, but give us some 6 months or 1 year or so. And you make legitimate reasons that by this time we'll start implementing, even up to this level. Even if it is renegotiated, it should be renegotiated in a way. But you want it to be renegotiated, but you're already going to that table with a very clear mind. Won't pay, can't pay. So if you've already said won't pay, can't pay, how are you then telling the doctors to come to table to negotiate? You must come with very clean hand. Otherwise, the government is losing a very critical discussion on won't pay, can't pay. But how about can't treat, can't do surgery? I was shocked to see cancer patients in some hospitals saying they cannot have chemo. And they're supposed to have, those who are supposed to have weekly chemos. We need to think big. Thank you, guys.